Hey, this is Jen Gray, your host of Be Genuine with Jen podcast, where we discover how our authenticity is our superpower. I am so excited you've joined me for today's episode. Let's get started. Hey friends, it is Jen Gray. I'm so excited for today's episode. Oh my goodness, I cannot wait for you to meet this incredible friend of mine who's just, I can't believe you've never met in person. It's like one of those things, when you connect with somebody from afar online, but you're just kindred spirits. And so I am so honored and I cannot wait for you guys to meet her. But let me tell you a little bit about her. This is Angie, and she is a dynamic entrepreneur and a former first grade teacher who has transformed her journey of grief and self-discovery into a powerful mission to uplift others. Her life is fueled by a deep passion for guiding individuals to reconnect with their inherent greatness. Angie's heart belongs to her husband, mom, and fur babies, but her true calling lies in inspiring others, and she's so good at it. Whether through her coaching programs, vibrant communities, network marketing, or her groundbreaking C.A.P.E global movement aimed at empowering children, teachers, and families, Angie thrives on connection and inspiration. Each day she wakes up energized and ready to make a difference, driven by her unwavering commitment to impact lives. So with that, Angie, welcome. I am so glad you are here.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Jen. And you're right. The second I met you, I was like, friends.
Yeah, right. I'm like, you are my people. Yeah.
You are my people. Yes.
So I'm so excited. I mean, honestly, even for me, just to learn more about your journey, and what I know about it is you are such a powerful woman on so many levels. And I know that everybody's life has ebbs and flows, has mountains and valleys, but honestly, who you are on the other side of them, I think shapes and it shows who you are. And so I love that. And that's why I titled this, like, you have greatness inside of you. And you speak about, like, we have inherent greatness and it comes from what we've overcome. And so what I love highlighting in the podcast is people's journeys. Everybody has a story. And what I've found in almost every person that I've talked to, especially if they've jumped into any entrepreneurial journey, is you were headed one direction and life happened, or a passion happened, or some catalyst caused a huge change and a huge shift to step into something else. And so I would love for you to share that, whatever part of your story you want us to intersect with, but to share your journey so that other people can see, maybe even themselves, and you can light a fire or give them hope as they watch your journey and unfold. So I'd love to hear it. So start wherever you want to.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I love the Be Genuine with Jen, first and foremost. I'll be honest with you, my hands are sweaty and I'm so excited, and I love conversations like this. To be honest with you, I never imagined my life would go in this direction. I was a first grade teacher. I loved it. Honestly, from the time I was in sixth grade, I was like, I'm going to be a teacher when I grow up. And, a lot of us were asked that question from the time we were little. What do you want to be when you grow up? And so I think our minds think that I need to pick the one thing that I'm going to do until I'm 65. Mm-hmm. And for me, that felt easy. It was like, okay, I'm going to be a teacher. And I loved every single thing about it. And then after the loss of my dad and a bunch of people in my family in 2009, it really was like a lot of people, like it's one of those catalysts that make you just take a step back and say, like, who am I? What do I want? How do I overcome grief? Like I realized even as a teacher, I had zero tools on dealing with emotion, on overcoming hardship. And so through that journey, I just became super obsessed with personal development. Up until that time, I had no idea that it was even a thing. I thought, like, think positive vibes, think positive thoughts, like positive psychology was like the extent of personal development. And I found this whole world of people who did use their pain for purpose. And they did use, like, their setbacks for setups and all the things, right? They turn their message into their mess into the message. And so I just was like, wow, like if all these people are doing this, like maybe I'm not the only person who didn't know this their whole life growing up. Like maybe this is like a thing. And so long story short, I just felt in love with the whole idea of human potentiality. And so from that point forward, I just started hosting women's retreats just as a hobby. I did not think it was going to be a thing, but I was like, if maybe I'm not the only person who doesn't know this. And so maybe there are other people and we can hunker down in a lake house and just talk about these things. And it was just so wild to me to see what happens when you put humans in a room together and you share your stories, as you were saying, Jen. Like, every single person has a story. There's no one that doesn't. And it's interesting to realize that we really aren't taught what to do during, our story. We aren't taught how to really harness our potential. So I just found an obsession for that, and that's kind of been how the journey started.
Wow, that's great. First of all, I love that. I love that you were able to turn absolute devastation into a life-changing moment. And one of my favorite pictures is the idea of like looking in the mirror, and like for me and my own, it was like, hold on, like this is not a dress rehearsal for life. Like, am I living the legacy that I want to live? Right. And so for you, it's like, wait, I think my impact might be able to be even greater. And not that being a first grade teacher was not a massive impact, but looking outside of that situation and saying, how else can I add value? So okay, we got to take us back to like the beginning. So for me, I hated to read when I was like, I think it's hilarious now how much of a reader, but I mean, I was like Cliff Note girls. Like I never ever wanted to read. So like your personal development journey, like what even introduced you? Like what was your first book, if you even remember, back then, like what kind of sparked that for you?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. They say you can see the stepping stones looking back. You never see them looking forward. I look back at that moment of life and I'm like, it looked like snot bubble ugly crying on the bathroom floor. Like that's what it looked like. It was not like, oh, I fell in love with personal development and then everything just overnight shifted. It was really like finding one teacher. I remember Googling because we were going to host a retreat and I asked my friend, I was like, have you ever been to a retreat before? She's like, no, have you? And I'm like, nope. Want to host one? And she's like, yeah, sure. And so I was like Googling, like, I'm like, what is this? Is this like empowerment coaching or something? We're like Googling empowerment coaching. And at the time it was like when Gabrielle Bernstein was starting and like, she was just starting. Like it wasn't really like so much of a thing. And we had no clue what we were doing, but it was like, when you ask, it is given, And so it was like being at that place where I was finally asking, for guidance. And I remember Gabrielle Bernstein saying, when she wrote her first book, she pictured the girl on the subway, like reading her book. And I think so often, we struggle with like, who am I to do this? But even if you know one thing that a previous version of you didn't know, like, it's like, wow, how much can that transform that one person's life? And so it started, Les Brown was one of the very first. I remember him, you gotta be hungry. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means, but I feel like I'm more hungry for life now just hearing you say this. And, so like those beginning steps of it wasn't a fire yet in me, but it was a spark. And so it's like sometimes just having that first little spark of, I believe that we all know we're meant for greatness. I believe that from the time, like this is inherent. It's not something that, is contingent upon something that you do or something that you are, something that you achieve. I think that there's inherent greatness in every one of us. And through life situations and circumstances, like we lose it. It's not that it goes away. It's just we lose our connection to it. And so I think of it as like the hose. Like the hose is always there, but we kink it. Our human kinks it, right? Through the things we go through. And so it was like the hose started to unkink. And it was like the next teacher, then the next teacher, then the next teacher. And then it's like, then you start to develop that discernment inside of yourself. So I feel like every person that I've ever encountered, they know that there's a spark there, but our human gets so much in the way of, yeah, but how? And yeah, but my stories, and yeah, but my past, and yeah, but my this, and yeah, but this. And so we, yeah, but our way out of our greatness. And so it's really just a matter of like remembering. And so I feel like each teacher did, to answer your question, because I went on a tangent.
Oh, I love it.
So that like each teacher, I feel like unveiled a piece of the spark or poured a little bit of gasoline on it in a different way, right?
Yeah. And what I love is all you showed up with essentially was the match. And you came. And so for anyone else listening, it wasn't this previous, this was brand new to you. It was like a totally different, complete
World.
mindset shift. And
Yes.
so if all you can bring is an absolute mess and puddle of snot bubbles, like you just said, I love that mental picture because
Yeah.
it's a reality that you don't have to be here to go here. Like you're breathing, and the fact that you're breathing, and I always say this means that God's not done with you yet, right? No matter
No.
what you believe, like you are still here, which means you can impact the person that you were 5 years ago. You can impact the person you were 5 months ago.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yes.
You know, and like that's what, like, for me, I use social media a lot, and people are like, I could never go live, or I could never, do that on social. And I said, listen, you can't if you're not thinking of one person that you want to talk to. And so, like you just said, whatever platform that someone's using, whether it's a conversation or it's a social media post or it's a women's retreat or it's a podcast or it's a book or whatever it is, if you look at the masses, you're going to miss the individual. And so if all we do is focus on the individual, then whatever masses will come, right? And I don't even think it takes millions, right? It just takes you focusing on how can I impact one person? Who did I need in this season? And I agree, we are our worst enemies. And I feel like that imposter syndrome is straight up real because what do I have to give? Like, do you want me to tell you how to mess all this and up? I got you.
I'm really good at that.
What not to do, book? Girl, I am your person. And then and that's why I think journaling is really powerful. I think we often forget our little things that we overcome, and it's confidence stacking, right? The reason that we know that we can overcome something is because you've already overcome all of this. And if we don't take notice of it, then we just forget the tools that we already have. And so now, like, I'm a year and a half out from like my like burn to the ground, like completely restart all the things. And when I look, people are like, how'd you do it? And I'm like, but I have to think through, but so much of it is not even just like, here's what I did from 8 to 9 a.m. or here's what I did it was this mentality of the only way I fail is if I give up.
Yeah.
And like you just said, if there is pain in your story, then you have a purpose. And there is one thing that we can all come alongside, not like misery loves company, but we all have a story that we've overcome. Yeah. And when we look at it like that, then give the power back to your story and say, it can impact somebody. All I have to do is be genuine and be vulnerable and be open to the opportunity to actually use that. And so I absolutely love that. I love that you said just like the opportunity for human potentiality. Like when I used to be in girls ministry, what I would always look for, and especially girls who were just making choices that weren't smart, like they were just like headed down, as an adult, you're like, this is a dead end. Like, girl, this is not going to end well.
Yeah.
But it was consistent every single time. The reason they were going down a dead end is they had no vision of where they were headed. Right. What is it? I mean, where there's no vision, the people like will perish, right? And it's like, it's so true. Like, if you're ending up in dead ends, then just think, where are you even trying to get to? And I think I love that you use the word like human potentiality, like the fact that we all have this great potential. And are we even open to it? Not that we don't have the greatness, we don't have the potential. Like you said, it's already inside of us, but like, are we even open to it? And so for someone listening who's like, oh yeah, Angie and Jen, that's cool for you guys, but like, you don't understand. Like, I don't even have like the bandwidth. I don't even know what to turn to or what to do. Like, what would you say, Angie? What would be your word of encouragement?
I mean, honestly, it's like anything in life, it's start by starting, and just as you said, if you have a vision, I see so much in life how we literally, like we get in our car, we never plug into the GPS where we're going, and we get so discouraged because we drive around in circles. And it's like, if we don't have a destination or at least an idea of where we want to go, and then add life into it when the fog comes in, then you're driving in the fog with no destination plugged in and have no idea where you're going, you know? And so I think so often we see this gap of where we are and where we desire to be, and we feel like it's so vast. But in like, you're fully supported. Every single one of us are fully supported. And so it's like, first start with, what would you love if you took all of the limitations off yourself? If you truly did buy into the belief that you could be, do, or have anything, and that you are here on purpose, with purpose, and for purpose. Every single person is. There's not a person listening to this that is not here on purpose, with purpose, and for purpose. And so I love how you said that. If you have breath, God's not done with you yet. It's true. And so it's like, knowing that this is fact. What do you want? Like, what do you want with your non-dress rehearsal, with your one and only beautiful life that is yours? It's the best game of life. And then the other thing I tell people is, did you ever play the game of hot and cold when you were a kid, by chance? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm like, life is always playing, this is my first grade teacher, silly analogy, but it's always playing hot and cold with us. You are spending time with someone that doesn't bring you joy. You're cold. You're spending time with somebody that brings you joy. You're hot. You're doing something that lights your soul on fire. You're hot. You're doing something that's kind of fun. You're warm. It's like, life is always playing the game of hot and cold with us. Call it alignment. Call it whatever you will. But it's always playing hot and cold with us. And so if we realize that this is our life, but it also is meant to be fun, it's also meant to be a game, and that anytime there is contrast, because there will be, there's always going to be duality. There's a law of polarity. So there's an equal and opposite to everything. If you're going through something really messy and hard right now, there is an equal opposite of goodness waiting for you on the other side. And so use even the contrast, even the cold, as it's a navigation guide. Oh my gosh, I'm really cold right now. I'm going through something really messy. I'm learning how to process it. I'm gaining wisdom. I'm reaching out to people. I'm breaking old patterns. I'm doing things that are in alignment with my soul. It's every single one of those decisions is getting you warmer. And so I would just say, take this game of life and start playing it full out. And plug in what you want. Yeah.
I love that. I love the hot and cold, because that's so good, because when you are in that like bottom of bottom, like the thought of going from cold to hot just seems like an impossibility, right? It's like A to Z. But like, just what's going to make you warmer today? Like, what's one conversation? What's one person that you could call that you know it's going to be like a life-giving conversation? Or like, what's one social media account that you know is going to just like shift that for you and take you out of your pain just for a second? Maybe it's just humor, right? Like, it doesn't have to be like, you know, something inspirational. Even like, what song can you put on? Like, I think music, you know, like, what is it for you that can make yourself warmer, and then just like keep going towards that, and then you find purpose as you get yourself out of that. And as I think that it's huge too, like, to just keep moving forward, and knowing that as you're moving forward, you are going to, you don't have to figure out the end plan. Like, where I'm at right now, I couldn't even see a year ago, right? Like, I knew where I was cold. Right? I wanted to be hot, and I'm still probably in like a little bit higher than lukewarm, right? Like, I'm not ultimately where I want to be, but I sure as heck know where I was. But like you said, like, getting around people and getting around opportunities and things that just light you on fire inside, and letting that fire rekindle. I heard a life coach, she was teaching at a meeting I was at this week, and just talked about, like, we just lose fun, right? We think adulting is like this whole thing, and we lose what like does make us enjoy things. And like, it's removing the guilt over it and actually loving the life that we're living. And sometimes like that simple statement can shift everything, because then you are around people doing what you love. And then that, you know, ignites things further. So
1,000%. And, you know, I want to use you as an example because it's perfect. It's like how, you know, there's a previous version of you with the speaking, right? This is something we've been talking about together. But but then you declared it, right? So you could not have seen this version of you when you first started your journey. Likewise, like I didn't know. I was a teacher. That's my who I am, you know? And so, but then you declare the next thing, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to start a podcast. And then you take, just recently I saw you take the next leap, and you're like, hey guys, I'm a speaker, right? It's like, I'm starting to step into this. Well, then guess what happened when I saw a speaking thing? Like the first person that came to my mind was you. They were like, I'm looking for a speaker in Atlanta. My brain automatically went to you because you declared it. So it's like, you know, The Secret would say that the steps to manifestation are ask, believe, receive. But I think ask, believe, take inspired action, receive. So you take the inspired action, and then it seems like magic, woo woo, fairy dust, that like the opportunities come to you. But that's the process, right? You start, you take the next step, you put a vision. You don't always know the vision beyond the vision.
Right.
Eventually you place another vision beyond the next vision. And then life is like, you look back and you see all these cookie crumbs. You're like, oh my gosh, that cookie crumb led to that cookie crumb, led to that cookie crumb. And so, yes, I love how you said put fun in. Mm-hmm. Like that is like priority, is have fun. If you were at the end of your life, like look at how many magic moments you would be like, that was fun, and that was fun, and I loved that, and I loved that connection. And then you can even do that even every evening before you go to bed, like relive the day and be like, I loved that, I loved that, I loved that. And then you wake up and you do gratitudes and you're putting it ahead, and then suddenly you realize that life is this like amazing dance. You're just like, you're making your life your masterpiece one day at a time. Are they all perfect? No. Does ish happen? Yes. Like it's not rainbows and butterflies, but it is at least the teeter totter hits 51% more good than not good. And that's a huge win.
Oh yeah. And oh gosh, there's so much of that to unpack. But I love the cookie crumb, because literally like there's sometimes I'm like, how did I get here? And I'm like, oh wait, this connection or this opportunity or this thing or this like soft, still voice that I knew was saying, do this, or taking the messy action, or I love inspired action, right? It's all these different things. It's not, but from the outside, it could be like, oh, this just all appeared. But when you look at it, you're like, no, if I had just sat in a corner reading some personal development books and like learning and soaking it all in, but never taking any action, I could have had a lot of knowledge, but there would have been no wisdom because I wasn't moving forward. And so for each person even listening, like maybe the thought of speaking or doing a podcast, you're like, you know, that is not me. Or like starting a movement like Angie has done, you're like, that's not me. Perfect. What is you? Maybe it's, I want to volunteer for a local softball team and inspire girls that, you know, with a sport that I loved, or it's stepping into a volunteer or a nonprofit, or maybe it's just committing to be a different type of parent at home with your own children, and you want to become a different type of leader in your own home. Whatever it is, it's having the vision that there's always more. Right? It's not a dissatisfied, like in a negative sense. It's that, yeah, I'm happy, but I know that life is, I've got this one life and I want to have the most impact possible. And what does that look like? And, you know, stepping into that and just daily trusting. And again, getting around the people who are doing what you want to do, learning. And I am telling you, if there's anything that you can learn, and it's what encouraged me by listening to other people who are doing what I loved, is every single one of them has a story of pain. Every one of them has tons of failure, tons of setbacks over and over and over. It's overcome. And so if you're listening right now and you feel like, I'm the puddle, y'all. Like, I don't even know, like the thought of impact. I just want like survival. I just want you to know, like, you are loved and you are worthy and you are enough. And what can you learn in this season? And just show up every day, one foot in front of the other. And that will guide you to being able to help the other person that's on the floor in exactly your position. If you lean into it and you give yourself the freedom to be able to use your story to impact other people. Oh my goodness, Angie.
Yes, yeah. Well, you said a couple things that I think are so profound. And I love how you said about the walk. Like, there was a coach that I love, and she said, I look at life as 1 foot desire, 1 foot gratitude, 1 foot desire, right? It's like 1 foot gratitude, 1 foot desire. And it's like always anchoring in, like, I'm so grateful for everything that I have. And the acorn wants to be the oak tree. Like, it doesn't want to stay an acorn. So there's always, like, it's inherent and natural for us to want growth and expansion. But also being so real, we're on the Be Genuine with Jen. I have missed so many opportunities. Like, there have been so many shots that I did not take because fear has held me in a headlock. And so I think it's really important for people to know, because I think it's so easy to whack-a-mole yourself when you miss an opportunity or you do something and you're like, oh, coulda, shoulda, woulda, didn't. And it's easy to compound that, but it's also very easy to take each one as coulda, shoulda, woulda, didn't. Okay, now what? Under new management. And at each moment, we have an opportunity to be in under new management. And so, I'm listening to you talk, and I know times where I had opportunity and I did not have the courage to back it up. But I feel like, because life is an evolution and journey through a lifetime, we're never done, we're never finished. It is an evolution, we're ever evolving. Even if someone's listening to this today and they feel like they've missed the shots, like they didn't take the chance, today is a new day. Like, every single morning that we wake up is a new chance to start again. And it's not over till it's over. And so I would encourage every person, like, find one thing today that you can do to put a coin in the courage bank. And then the next day, find one thing you can do to put a coin in the courage bank. And those courage coins, over time, they add up. They might be put in with sweaty palms and sweaty armpits and like freaking out, but you do it, right? Like, the first time you speak in front of people, we were talking about this, it was like, but you put a coin in the courage bank, and it's not a perfect coin in the courage bank. It's a courage coin in the courage bank, So it's like, just remember that it's really never too late. Like, ever. It's never too late.
Yeah. You're never, ever disqualified. Y'all, I believed that I was, and I had a leader tell me that if I did this and went through this, I would never have influence. And so if you have listened and like set that in, just know my greatest life lessons came from the hardest seasons of life, right? Like, that's what grows you. No, nobody is listening to an inspiring story from someone who was born and everything was just easy, like, it's not relatable, right? That's not what's real life. Like, I'm not even sure that's even a thing. And I'm like, you're covering something up, and probably what you're covering up is what we can actually learn from, but whatevs. But just to know, like, that actually is, honestly, it is your greatest superpower, because it's authentic. It's who we are. And, so, oh my gosh, so good. So as we land the plane, this is like part A. I know we'll definitely do this again. But there's some other things that I would love to dive through, because you are such a wealth of wisdom and just such a picture of taking something and shifting it. Because, Angie, you could have, without any fault, you could have dove into personal development as a first grade teacher and just become a really, really well-rounded, emotionally intelligent first grade teacher, right? And poured into first graders' lives, which would have been great. But what you did is you took that love for teaching and life and recognizing your purpose, and then you turned it into something massive, and you did it scared. And that's what I love. When you're like, I've never even been on a retreat. I'm like, I love that, right? Listen, I started a mindset book club, and literally it's like mostly like middle-aged or older men, like from the North. Y'all, I am an Atlanta Southern girl who used to speak to high school teenage girls. Okay. So there could not have been any opposite. And I'm like, here we go. Real conversations. And I'm like, if you had told me that's what it would look like, I would have said you're crazy. But like you said, just keep picking up the cookie crumbs. Just keep stepping in the direction. I love that 1 foot desire, 1 foot gratitude, being so thankful for where you are. But again, going after what literally only can make it to a vision board now, and just watching it happen as you throw yourself and put yourself out there. So yes, I love that you shared that, Angie, because again, just putting yourself out there like you did. You're like, we're going to do a women's retreat, and you did, and you do, and it's become all of this. And I still think you're just getting started. Like it's just,
Oh,
it's, you know, the sky is the limit, and the impact is going to be and will continue to be like absolutely astronomical. So thank you for sharing your story. But a couple of questions for you just before we wrap up, just so that we can, you know, even just some resources, you know, for others. But first of all, people in your life, I think the people that we have in our lives completely can help and aid and add so much life to our life. But like, who's been the most inspirational person over your journey of life?
through my journey. So that's a tricky question, right? Because there's different iterations of you and different people who had such a profound impact. I mean, my dad, you know, through his life and his passing, he had a big impact on me. My mom, she's my bestie, besties for the resties. My husband, of course. And, you know, again, going through hard stuff together. If someone paid me $1 bajillion, I would not give back any of the hard things we've been through. I'm so grateful for our love. And I think that it's because we were able to go through some things that it's that way. And then I had a mentor that has passed away, but he's been also a great teacher for me, both in his life and his passing. So Jesse Lee was another person that was really awesome. But yeah, I realized that sometimes our greatest teachers are the ones that are still here and the ones that have transitioned. And in their transition, we learn a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree. And I thought it was special, just even the timing of this. So it's crazy. It's a year this Monday of Jesse Lee's passing, which is crazy that it's already been a year. So I love that we shared that. And so a lot of people in you know, in my world, they don't know her. And so I love that you experienced her as well. And I love that, right? That it's from family to even your husband. It's so cool to even watch you guys like jump into your own new journeys and just like
So
take these
cool.
major risks together. And you know, it's, I can only imagine the behind the scenes, right? It's like,
So cool.
yeah, I love that. I love that for you. So okay, so then as far as people, then what about books? So I think that's probably a loaded question, but is there one book, maybe it's something you're currently reading or that just stands out to you that you're like, hey, if I were to suggest one book that's impacted me, this is the book you got to go get?
So there's quite a few because we're working on a project with my kids book with several books. So I love them all. But there is one too that I have read over and over again. It's by Kathleen Cameron called The Best of Yourself. And I feel like if there were ever just like someone's like, tell someone one message. And I think the message would be like, you're always on an evolutionary journey to become the best of yourself. And I really love that book. I feel like it's just every single word, you're like, oh, okay. Like you know, when things resonate as truth. So as she speaks, it feels like truth. So I really love that book.
I've never read that book. I don't know if I've even heard of that book. So I'm super excited to
Yeah, Kathleen Cameron, The Best of Yourself. Yes.
Okay.
Highly recommend.
Awesome.
And then Becoming the One. She has another one called Becoming the One, but I love The Best of Yourself.
I have heard of Becoming the One. Okay. So now I can connect to the author. Okay. Very cool. And then lastly, so the whole tagline of the podcast is your authenticity is your superpower. And so 30 seconds a minute, what does that mean to you in your life that your authenticity is your superpower?
So for me, it just means be you. I remember so many times where I felt like I was like too much or too silly or too goofy or too like fill in the blank. And I feel like the two fill in the blank that you think you are is probably your greatest superpower. So if there's ever something that you've been afraid of like being that, I'd say like explore it because it just might be who you were meant to be. So
I love that. Absolutely love it. I know it's like the meme that always goes around, like, where are the girls at who always got in trouble for talking in class? Like, we're probably right. I'm like, that was me. Like,
And never one report card ever. I don't think the entire time ever. Like I asked my mom, I'm like, were there any? And she's like, no, I don't think so. Like none.
yeah, so there's hope. Right? As my kids, like my youngest son, he gets all the time. I'm like, okay, dude, just we got to be respectful. But I get it. I know, like friends.
It's hard. It's funny because when I taught, I would tell, like, I was very conscientious to not do that. Or if I was telling the parents in conferences, I'm like, so they do actually like to verbalize. I don't want to say talks too much, but because it's like
scarred from life. We're the whole like generation like scarred for life. Like,
yes,
that, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna embrace the too muchness.
Yes, the too much. Be too much. That's my. Please be too much.
Yes, because again, that's what separates you. Because otherwise we're just like these diluted versions of ourselves. And I am telling you, it is one thing to look, and I'm like trying to wrap it up and I keep talking, but like you look around and when you have people around you that are your people, and the way that you know that is because you don't have to be a different version of yourselves in different group. You're like, wait, no, I just showed up as me. And like you love me for me or you don't. And that's perfect because tons of people in this world.
You're right.
With, right? If you like, quiet, and I'm probably not your girl, and that's totally fine. Yes. But yeah, no, I love that. And it's funny that, and we were talking before. So if you are watching live, you will see this I just have to point it out. I have this lovely, like I cut all of the skin off my forehead with an ice maker helping the kids yesterday. And I was like, of course I would have a podcast today and it would be live, but I'm like, #be genuine. Sometimes you got to show up with this. I mean, it's awesome. I'm like, how did I do that? Like, it's just, mom life, whatever. But that's the thing. Just show up, just be you, and know that you have greatness inside of you. I think that's what Angie and I want everyone to know today, is that you're created for something massive, and you already have the greatness inside of you. Just let it out as little as you can or as much as you can. If you're in a cold season, just get around the warmth. And I absolutely love that imagery out. That's like stuck with me. So thank you so much for all of the wealth of wisdom that you shared today. And thank you for sharing your time. And we'll definitely add everything about where can we support you? Where's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, so just on Facebook or Instagram, Angie Leintnaker or C.A.P.E Global.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Well, again, thank you guys so much. And thank you guys for listening, for hanging out today. And I just want to say that I love you. And that may sound crazy because I may not know you, but there are people all across the world that hate people for no reason. So I always choose to love you for no reason until we meet. And I find the millions of reasons to love you. So you guys are amazing. Have a great rest of your week and keep being genuine.
Thank you.